AITA for walking out after my ex dumped me on camera during dinner? Travis thought he was going to a dinner to save his 3-year relationship. Brielle, his girlfriend, had other plans. She wanted to turn their breakup into a viral video. While hidden cameras recorded every move, she delivered a rehearsed speech, expecting tears, drama, and a public scene that would yield thousands of views. What she didn't expect was the reaction of a man who values hard work and dignity above any follower. With just 2 words and a gesture of absolute calm, Travis destroyed her script and left the restaurant and Brielle's life in a deafening silence. What happens when the pursuit of internet fame destroys the only real thing you had? My girlfriend of 3 years decided to break up with me at a fancy restaurant while her friends secretly recorded everything for social media content. She expected tears, pleading, maybe a public scandal she could post to gain likes. Instead, I said 2 words, got up, and left. What happened next? Pure chaos. And honestly, the best decision I ever made. My name is Travis, I am 29 years old, and I work as an HVAC technician here in Milwaukee. It is not glamorous, it doesn't impress at dinner parties, but it pays well, and I am good at it. I work with commercial heating and cooling systems, mainly for office complexes and malls. It's the kind of work where you are crawling on a rooftop in 90-degree heat or freezing your hands off in January. But there is something rewarding about solving problems that actually matter. When someone's AC goes out in the middle of summer, they don't care about your Instagram followers. They just want to stop sweating. I have been doing this job for about 7 years. I started as an apprentice right out of high school, rising through the ranks with certifications and hands-on experience. I have my EPA certification, my NATE certification, all the things that actually matter in this field. My father was a plumber for 30 years, so the skilled trades run in the family. He always used to say, "There is dignity in work that keeps your hands dirty but your conscience clean." I never forgot that. I met Brielle at a Brewers game in August of 2020. My friend Marcus, who works in commercial roofing, dragged me there because he had extra tickets. Good seats too, right along the third base line. We ended up in the same section as a group of women, one of them wearing a yellow shirt with a laugh that echoed through 3 rows. We started talking during the 7th inning stretch, and by the end of the game, I had her number. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant in Walker's Point. Nothing fancy, just good food and better conversation. She seemed genuinely interested in my work, asking questions about AC systems as if she really wanted to understand. That felt rare. Most people's eyes glaze over when you start talking about compressor units and refrigerant cycles. But she listened, asked follow-up questions, and joked about me being the guy who could save her if her apartment got too hot in the summer. The first 2 years were genuinely good. We would go to dinner at casual places around Milwaukee. She would come over to my house, and we would watch movies on my couch, order a pizza, and talk until 2 in the morning. Simple things, real things. She would even come to my bowling league, sometimes cheering when I got a strike, teasing me when the ball went into the gutter. Thursday nights at landmark lanes with the same group of guys I had bowled with since high school. Marcus, my friend Tyson, and a few other regulars. We had been throwing balls on those same lanes for nearly a decade. We had our own lockers and knew all the staff by name. League night was sacred. It was the only night of the week where I could just be myself with people who had known me for years, where no one cared about social media, networking, or climbing the career ladder. We played 3 games, talked about sports, work, and life, and grabbed something to eat afterward. Simple, real. Brielle understood that, or at least she used to. I would meet her coworkers for happy hour. I listened to her talk about whatever PR campaign she was working on. Normal relationship stuff. She worked at a mid-sized PR firm downtown, handling communications for local businesses. Nothing crazy, but she was good at it and seemed to enjoy the work. We had a comfortable routine that felt easy, not like a chore. The kind of relationship where you actually look forward to seeing the other person at the end of the day. Her apartment was a cute little 1-bedroom in River West. She decorated it with thrift store finds and plants that she somehow kept alive despite claiming she had a black thumb. I spent a lot of time there fixing her leaking kitchen faucet, installing a ceiling fan she bought on sale, and helping her mount a TV on the wall. She always said she loved that I could fix things, that it made her feel cared for. I believed her. Around the 2.5-year mark, in February of 2023, something changed. She got promoted at her firm. New title, new responsibilities, and a new group of people she started spending time with. She was now a senior account executive, which meant bigger clients, bigger budgets, and bigger egos at the office. That was when the comments started, small at first. My Silverado was looking outdated. Didn't I think it was time for something newer? Maybe I should think bigger about my career, consider going into commercial project management, or starting my own company. Her colleague had just bought a condo downtown. Wasn't that impressive for someone our age? Another had started a consulting firm and was already making six figures. I let it slide. I thought it was stress from the new position. New responsibilities always bring pressure, right? I didn't realize she was comparing our entire life to the curated highlights she saw on social media. Every time she scrolled through Instagram, she was measuring our relationship against filtered photos and carefully crafted captions. We never stood a chance against that kind of fantasy. The last year got progressively worse. She stopped coming to the bowling league, calling it a small-town thing, and saying it wasn't her vibe anymore. She started spending more time on Instagram, creating stories about brunch spots, networking events, and influencer meetups. Her phone became a constant presence between us, like a third person in the relationship demanding all her attention. At dinner, she would be scrolling. In a movie theater, she would check notifications during the trailers. In bed, she would be on her phone until after midnight, double-tapping photos and leaving comments on posts by people I had never heard of. When I asked what was wrong, she would respond angrily that I was being paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was being insecure. Any attempt at a real conversation about our relationship was deflected into an argument about my supposed jealousy. The fights became more frequent. Small things irritated her. I would suggest staying home and cooking together, and she would accuse me of never wanting to go to nice places. I would mention a new certification I was considering for work, and she would say it wasn't ambitious enough. Nothing I did seemed right anymore. The guy she fell in love with at that Brewers game apparently wasn't the guy she wanted anymore. She wanted the Instagram version of a boyfriend. Perfect hair, a fancy job, exotic vacations, expensive restaurants. That wasn't me. It never would be. 3 weeks before that Friday night, things escalated in a different way. She became distant, always texting, always shielding her screen. She would flip her phone over when I walked into the room, take calls in the bathroom, or step out to the car. When I asked directly if something was going on, if she was seeing someone else, she completely lost it. She accused me of being controlling, of not trusting her, of trying to monitor her every move. I backed off because I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid boyfriend who checks phones and demands passwords. I trusted her, or at least I trusted the person I thought she was. Then, out of nowhere, she insisted we had to go to a place called Metropolitan for dinner, a high-end restaurant in the 3rd Ward, the kind of place with cloth napkins and waiters who describe every dish as a work of art. Expensive as hell. Not my scene. I had passed by there 100 times and never thought about going inside. She said it was important, that we needed to reconnect, that this dinner would help us get back on track. I didn't want to go, but I agreed because I wanted to fix whatever was breaking between us. I wanted to believe that a fancy dinner could somehow bridge the gap that had opened over the last year. In hindsight, it was stupid, but love sometimes makes you stupid. That Friday, I drove my Silverado downtown. The valet looked at my truck as if it were something that had wandered in from the wrong neighborhood. He handed me a ticket without making eye contact. I felt out of place immediately. It should have been my first clue to turn around and leave, but I didn't. Metropolitan has low lighting, small portions that cost $30, and menus longer than repair manuals. The kind of place where the main courses cost what I earn in half a day. Piano music played softly in the background. People in suits and designer dresses discussed things that sounded important but meant nothing to me. I was wearing my best jeans and a button-down shirt I had ironed that afternoon. I still felt underdressed. She had arrived early, securing a table right in the center of the dining room. It wasn't private, not tucked away in a corner, but right where everyone could see. I should have realized something was wrong right there. Why would someone choose the most visible table in the restaurant for a reconnection dinner? Unless visibility was the entire goal. She looked different. A new dress I hadn't seen before, black and tight. Full makeup, professionally styled hair, more effort than she had put into our usual dates. Her hair was pinned up, and she wore jewelry that caught the light. When I sat down, she smiled. But it wasn't her real smile. It was the one she used for Instagram photos, the one where the eyes don't match the mouth. Practiced, empty, camera ready. I ordered a Dr. Pepper. She ordered something fancy. We made small talk about her day, about mine, a shallow conversation that felt like we were strangers on a first date instead of people who had been together for 3 years. Something was off, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Then I noticed them. Lindsay, her college roommate, and Avery, a friend from her work, sitting maybe 15 feet away at a table with a perfect view of ours. They waved enthusiastically, saying loudly what an incredible coincidence it was. Oh my God, what are the chances of us all being here at the same time, right? 0. There was zero coincidence in a city with hundreds of restaurants. I looked at their table more carefully. Both of their phones were positioned in a specific way, not face down, not put away, but standing upright on the table, angled toward us. The recording apps were visible on their screens, tiny red dots indicating they were active. My stomach turned. They were filming this, all of it, recording every word, every gesture, every moment of what was about to happen. This wasn't a reconnection dinner. It was a trap. Dinner started normally. We ordered. She got the seared salmon with some kind of reduction I couldn't pronounce. I went with pasta because it was the least expensive thing on the menu that wouldn't make me look cheap. The waiter poured water into crystal glasses and brought bread to the table. Everything moved in slow motion as the pieces began to fit together in my head. She talked about work, about how she had been thinking a lot about her future lately. Not our future, but her future, her goals, her trajectory. The words sounded rehearsed, as if she had written them down and memorized them. She kept glancing over at Lindsay and Avery's table, checking if they were managing to record, making sure the cameras were rolling. Then came the speech. You could tell she had practiced it, probably in front of her bathroom mirror, recording herself on her phone, watching it back and making adjustments until she got the tone just right. The pauses came at calculated moments. The hand gestures were deliberate. This wasn't spontaneous. It was a performance designed for an audience. She talked about ambition, about drive, about growth, about needing to be with someone who inspired her to reach for more, to want more, to push boundaries. Her voice had this rehearsed quality, like an actress delivering lines she had memorized but didn't really feel. One of her colleagues had just started a consulting firm and already had 3 major clients. Another had bought a condo in the 3rd ward and was talking about buying investment properties. These were people who were going somewhere, people who refused to settle for comfortable, people who wanted more from life than just getting by. The implication was crystal clear, even if she never said it directly. I was comfortable where I was. I was content with my HVAC job, with my Silverado, with bowling on Thursdays and Brewers games on weekends. I wasn't ambitious enough. I wasn't driven enough. I was holding her back from becoming the person she was destined to be. She said she cared about me, always would care about me, but she didn't see a future anymore. That I was a nice guy, just not the right guy for her. That she needed someone who matched her energy, who pushed her to be better, who understood her vision for life. All the while she was talking, I watched Lindsay and Avery out of the corner of my eye. They could barely contain their excitement. This was golden content for them. A public breakup at a fancy restaurant, complete with a dramatic speech and, hopefully, a tearful reaction from the boyfriend who just found out his relationship was ending. Perfect for TikTok, perfect for Instagram Reels, perfect for any social media platform that was paying attention. I placed my fork down calmly, gently on the plate. I wiped my mouth with the cloth napkin. The entire restaurant seemed to fade away. All I could hear was my own breathing, my own heartbeat. 3 years of a relationship, hundreds of memories reduced to this orchestrated moment designed for strangers on the internet. I made eye contact with her, held it, and paused for maybe 2 seconds that felt like 20. Then I simply said, "Good luck to you." For words. That was all it took. Her script had not predicted that response. She expected me to plead, to argue, to make a scene, to cry or beg or demand that we work it out, to give her the dramatic reaction she needed for her video, for her story, for her Instagram followers. She wanted theater. I gave her nothing. I stood up slowly and calmly, pulled my wallet from my back pocket, and took out 2 $20 bills, more than enough to cover my half of the bill and my share of the tip. I dropped them on the table next to my half-eaten pasta. Then I walked toward the exit. I didn't say another word. I didn't look back. I didn't acknowledge Lindsay and Avery sitting there with their phones still recording. I simply walked, one foot in front of the other. I passed the other diners, who had stopped their own conversations to watch. I passed the waiters, who stood still holding plates. I passed the reception desk near the entrance. The entire restaurant went silent. You could clearly hear the piano music now. No one was talking. Forks weren't clinking on plates. It was as if someone had pressed pause on the entire scene. Every person in that room was watching me leave, and none of them knew what to do with it. Behind me, I heard her voice falter. "Wait," she said. "Wait." But I kept walking. I heard her chair scrape against the floor. She was getting up. Lindsay and Avery looked confused, as if they weren't sure if they got the shot they wanted, if this was part of the plan, or if something had gone terribly wrong. Her carefully orchestrated piece of content was falling apart in real time. I pushed through the restaurant doors and walked out. I handed my ticket to the valet. I stood there waiting. The cold October air felt good after the stuffiness of the restaurant. I could finally breathe again. The night sky was clear, stars visible between the city lights. Everything felt sharper, more real than it had been in months. A minute later, I heard heels clicking fast on the pavement. Brielle came through the restaurant doors, almost running in those heels, that dress under the parking lot lights. She looked different, smaller. The inner confidence was gone. The performer had lost her audience. She reached me just as the valet brought the Silverado around. Engine running, headlights on, my escape route right there. Her voice cracked when she reached me. The rehearsed confidence from the dinner table had evaporated. This was different. Raw panic mixed with disbelief. Her mascara was already smudging. She had been crying. Real tears this time, not the performing ones. "Wait," she said. "Just wait. You aren't even going to fight for this. For us." I looked at her clearly. "You just broke up with me. I'm respecting your choice." She stood in front of the driver's door, blocking my way. She put her hand on the handle as if she could physically stop me from leaving. "You're throwing away 3 years just like that? Like it meant nothing?" "I'm not throwing anything away. You did that in there. I'm just accepting reality." Her face contorted with anger now, the tears turning into something else. "You know what? This is exactly why we don't work. You don't care. You never cared enough to fight for anything. You just give up. You're a quitter." I looked past her. Lindsay and Avery had come out, standing at the restaurant entrance about 30 feet away, watching this unfold, still holding their phones, probably still recording, probably getting more footage than they had planned. This was not following the script at all. "I'm out of this conversation," I said. "Of course you are, because that's what you do. You run away from hard things." "I didn't run away from anything. You set this whole thing up. You chose the restaurant, brought your friends, and told them to film everything. This isn't about me being a quitter. This is about you wanting a show, and I won't perform for you." I stepped past her gently but firmly. I got into my truck. She stood there as I closed the door. Through the windshield, I could see her face. Complete shock. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. The perfect breakup video had turned into a disaster for her narrative. I backed up carefully, checked the mirrors, and pulled out. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the parking lot, arms wrapped around herself, as Lindsay and Avery slowly approached her. Their excited energy from inside the restaurant was nowhere to be found. I drove home through the streets of Milwaukee, which felt different, lighter. The streetlights seemed brighter. The radio sounded clearer. I pulled into my driveway, went inside, grabbed a Sprite from the fridge, opened it, and turned on the Brewers game. They were playing the Cubs. End of the 5th inning, tied 2-2. I sat on my couch, drank my soda, and felt nothing but relief. It was as if I had escaped something much worse than a breakup, much worse than heartache. I had escaped being someone's content, the villain in the story she wanted to tell for likes, comments, and shares. She wanted to turn our relationship into performance art, and I refused to participate. 3 years together. And this is what it came to. A stage scene in a restaurant, and phones recording in the background. Some relationships end with fights, some end with tears. Mine ended with me becoming footage for someone's social media strategy. My phone started vibrating about 15 minutes later. Text messages from her, calls, one after another. I didn't read the messages, I didn't answer the calls, I just let them pile up. Before going to sleep, I blocked her number. I slept easier than I had in months. Saturday morning came quietly. My phone rang at 10 o'clock from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't listen. I spent the day cleaning my house, doing laundry, and fixing a leaking faucet I had been putting off for weeks. Normal weekend things. The kind of productive Saturday I hadn't had in months because I was always worried if Brielle would approve of how I spent my time. Sunday afternoon, another call from a different unknown number. I let it ring. I blocked that one too. I recognized the pattern. She was using her friends' phones. Lindsay and Avery lending their numbers like they had lent front row seats to our breakup. Monday morning, 6:45. I was dressed for work, coffee in hand, about to head out to my truck. I saw a car in my driveway that wasn't mine. Brielle got out, looking completely different from Friday night. No makeup, an old sweatshirt, her hair tied in a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept all weekend. She looked wrecked. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't." I kept walking toward my truck. "Please, I made a mistake." I stopped. I turned to face her. I put my coffee on the hood of my Silverado. "You didn't make a mistake. You planned that whole thing. The restaurant, the cameras, your friends being there. How long did you work on that?" 2 weeks. 3. She looked at her feet. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "That's what I thought. You wanted to humiliate me. Make yourself look good on camera so you could post it online and get validation from strangers. Only it didn't happen the way you scripted it. I didn't give you the reaction you needed." Tears started rolling down her face. Real ones, this time. I was stupid. I listened to the wrong people. Lindsay and Avery said it would be empowering, that I deserved more, that I should make a statement about moving on. I don't care what your friends said. You're a grown woman. You made a choice. You chose to embarrass me in public. You chose to film it. You chose everything. But can't we just talk about it? Grab a coffee or something. There's nothing to talk about. I grabbed my coffee, got into my truck, started the engine, and backed out of my driveway while she stood there watching me. I left her standing in front of my house as the sun rose over Milwaukee. That night, my friend Marcus called. We've been friends since high school, one of those guys who knows everyone and hears everything through word of mouth. He sounded uncomfortable on the phone. "Hey man, so, I heard something at the gym today about you and Brielle." "What did you hear?" He hesitated. "Apparently someone knows her cousin. The whole restaurant thing was planned for a month. She chose Metropolitan specifically. Instructed Lindsay and Avery on what to film. She had a whole vision of how it would go viral. She would break up with you. You'd make a scene. She'd look strong and independent. And boom, thousands of likes, comments supporting her brave decision. Classic social media play. I thought about that for a second. A month. She spent a month planning to publicly humiliate me while I was working overtime to save for the vacation I thought we were going to take together. She was choreographing my humiliation. The thing is, Marcus continued, you messed it all up by just walking out, not reacting. Now people are asking questions like, why would someone plan a public breakup? What kind of person does that? Her friends are taking heat too. People are commenting on their Instagram asking why they were filming someone being dumped. The narrative she wanted to control was slipping away, and it had nothing to do with me. I didn't need to defend myself. The truth was doing it on its own. I decided in that moment to focus on myself instead of dwelling on what she had done. I called my friend from the bowling league the next day. I asked if that fixed Thursday spot was still available. He laughed and said, "Welcome back." I started going to a simple bar called the Hideout on Friday nights, over in Bayview on the south side of Milwaukee. Wood panels on the walls, neon lights, pool tables in the back, and local bands on weekends playing in a corner that barely qualifies as a stage. The kind of place Brielle always hated. Too loud, she would say. Too crowded, too many working-class people. It wasn't her vibe, not sophisticated enough for her Instagram aesthetic. Perfect for me. On the second Friday after the breakup, I went alone, took a seat at the bar, and ordered a root beer. A band was setting up on the small stage, 3 guys with guitars and a drum set doing sound checks. The woman next to me at the bar smiled and commented on the music. "They play here every other Friday," she said. "Good for a local group. Simple conversation, nothing loaded, nothing complicated, just 2 people talking about music." Her name was Claire. She taught 3rd grade at a public school on the east side. She had been coming here every Friday for a year, since she moved back to Milwaukee from Madison. We talked for maybe half an hour about music, about living in Milwaukee, about the Brewers' playoff chances. Nothing deep, nothing heavy, just genuine conversation between 2 people who happened to be sitting next to each other. When I left around 11 o'clock, I felt lighter than I had in months. I didn't get her number. I didn't even try. I just enjoyed a normal Friday without the weight of someone else's expectations crushing me. The stalking started the following week, and yes, I'm calling it stalking because that's exactly what it was. Tuesday morning, I stopped at the usual Dunkin' on Oakland Avenue, the one I go to every morning before heading to the job sites. 6:30 in the morning, barely awake, just wanting coffee. I walked in, and there she was. Brielle, sitting in the corner booth, laptop open, cup in front of her. She looked up when I entered. Her face arranged itself in surprise, as if she just happened to be there by chance, as if it wasn't the Dunkin' on the other side of town from where she lived, as if she didn't remember that I had mentioned coming here every morning for 3 years. The coincidence was insulting. "Oh, hi. What are you doing here?" "Getting coffee, same as you." I didn't engage beyond that. I walked to the counter, ordered my usual large black coffee, paid, and left. I didn't sit down, I didn't talk. I just got what I came for and walked out. Through the window, I saw her watching me go, phone in hand. Thursday night around 6, I stopped at Syndics to get groceries for the week, walking through the produce aisle, picking out apples. And there she was, Brielle, holding a basket with maybe 3 items, examining tomatoes as if she were selecting precious jewels. Our eyes met. She smiled. "Hey," she said, "what a coincidence bumping into you." "Yeah, what a coincidence." I moved to the next aisle to get bread. She appeared again at the other end, looking at pasta. Same aisle twice. This wasn't a coincidence, it was surveillance. I finished my shopping without saying another word. I checked out and left. Wednesday of the 3rd week, I was at a commercial job site in Wauwatosa, a large office building, doing a complete overhaul of the AC system, hundreds of thousands of dollars in work. I was on the roof checking compressor units when Ronald, my supervisor, came up the access ladder. "Hey, Travis, everything okay?" "Yes." "What?" "There's someone at the perimeter fence." A woman has been standing there for about 20 minutes watching the building. I walked to the edge of the roof and looked down. Brielle, standing outside the chain-link fence, looking up. When she saw me seeing her, she waved. She actually waved as if it were normal behavior, as if standing outside someone's workplace for 20 minutes was a totally reasonable thing to do. Ronald looked at me. "A friend of yours?" "An ex-girlfriend who doesn't take no for an answer." Ronald's expression hardened. He was about 47, had 2 daughters, and no patience for this kind of thing. He went down the ladder and made a call. 5 minutes later, building security walked over to the fence. They had a conversation with Brielle. She gestured toward the building, toward me. The security guards shook their heads. She stood there arguing for another minute, then finally left. She got in her car and drove away. Ronald came back and said if she returned, they would call the police for trespassing. "Do you need some time off or something?" "No, I'm fine. Thank you, really." That finally stopped the physical appearances. No more showing up at places, no more coincidental run-ins. She had gone too far, and even she knew it. Claire was at the hideout that 3rd Friday, sitting in the same spot at the bar where we had talked before. She smiled when she saw me, genuinely happy to see a familiar face. We talked for longer this time. She told me about her week teaching 8-year-olds, about the boy who brought his pet turtle for show and tell, about parent-teacher meetings that lasted 4 hours too long. I told her about commercial AC systems, about fixing a compressor on a 90-degree roof, about Ronald and the crew I worked with. Normal conversation between normal people, with normal jobs, living normal lives. We exchanged numbers before I left that night. No games, no waiting 3 days to text, just straight up. "I'd like to see you again." "I'd like that too." That same week, on Wednesday afternoon, we met for coffee at a place called Collectivo on Prospect Avenue, a coffee shop right on the lake with windows overlooking Lake Michigan. We sat for 2 hours. We talked about growing up in Wisconsin, about our families, about teaching and working with AC, and about what we wanted from life. She mentioned her last relationship, how the guy made good money in sales but couldn't handle the fact that she made a little more as a teacher. How he made little comments about how she must think she was better than him, about how she was too independent, about how she emasculated him by paying for things. "That sounds exhausting," I said. It was. People get insecure about the strangest things. They take it out on the wrong person instead of dealing with their own stuff. The comparison to Brielle was obvious, but neither of us said it out loud. We didn't need to. In the fourth week after the dinner, Brielle launched her next move. My old friend Connor texted me on a Sunday afternoon. We had known each other since college and kept in touch over the years. Nice guy, straightforward. His message was simple. Hey man, what is going on with you and Brielle? Can you call me? I called him immediately. What do you mean? He sounded uncomfortable. Your ex is telling some crazy stories to people, saying you were controlling during the relationship, that you isolated her from her friends, that you became aggressive when she tried to break up with you. I heard this from at least 3 different people this weekend. Thought you should know. My stomach turned as if I had missed a step going down the stairs. She's saying what? Yeah, I heard it through someone who heard it from Avery. Then Tyson mentioned it at the gym. Then I saw something vague on someone else's Facebook. It's circulating. Thought you should be aware. I hung up feeling sick. Controlling, aggressive, isolating. Words designed to make people question everything about me. Words that could follow me for years if enough people believed them. By Tuesday, 3 more mutual friends reached out, all with variations of the same question. What really happened? Is what she's saying true? Did you really do those things? People I had known for years were suddenly looking at me differently, wondering if they had missed something, if the guy they trusted was actually some kind of monster. Brielle was painting herself as a victim of an inappropriate relationship, saying I manipulated her for years, that I made her doubt herself, made her feel small, made her afraid. That the restaurant was her finally escaping, that she was afraid of how I would react. So, my calm wasn't dignity. It was calculated emotional abuse, the silent treatment, coldness, all signs of controlling behavior. Apparently, she had done her research, found all the buzzwords, and turned them into weapons against me. Complete fiction, all of it. But the thing about lies is that they spread faster than the truth. And some people, even good people, will wonder if maybe there's some truth to it. Where there's smoke, right? I made a choice. I wasn't going to defend myself publicly. I wasn't going to make counter posts or statements. Defending myself would give her exactly what she wanted: attention, engagement, proof that she still mattered to me. The best response was no response. Claire asked me about it that Friday at the hideout. How are you dealing with all of it? I've been better, I said. People are talking. Yeah, I know. For what it's worth, I don't believe any of it. Why not? You barely know me. She shrugged. Because if you were really like that, I would have seen signs by now. Controlling guys don't give people space. They don't stay calm during confrontations. They don't simply walk away. They escalate the situation. You did the opposite of all that. It made sense when she put it that way. The tide started to turn about a week later. Someone had saved the original restaurant video before Brielle deleted it and posted it on the Milwaukee subreddit with context. Woman plans public breakup for Instagram. Doesn't go as planned. The video showed everything. Her rehearsed speech, Lindsay and Avery's phones propped up recording, me calmly getting up, leaving money on the table, and walking out without a word. The silence in the restaurant, her chasing me outside. All documented and now public for everyone to see. The comments were brutal, people calling her manipulative, calling her a performer. Some recognized Lindsay and Avery from the video and started questioning their involvement. Why were they filming? Why were they positioned that way? Because the whole thing looked so staged. Lindsay and Avery took their social media private. Avery posted a vague apology about participating in something she regretted. She started distancing herself from photos with Brielle. The friend group was falling apart in real time. Brielle tried to push even harder. She made a long post on Instagram about how people didn't understand the full story, how the restaurant was her finally standing up for herself after years of subtle control. The post got maybe 14 likes, mostly from people who didn't know us. She deactivated the comments within an hour. Mutual friends who initially believed her started asking for proof, screenshots, anything concrete. She had nothing because nothing happened. 7th week, Thursday night. Lindsay called me. A real call, not a text. She's falling apart, Lindsay said. She doesn't leave the apartment, only talks to me. I'm worried about her. I'm sorry she's going through that, but it's not my responsibility. I know. I just needed to tell someone. Why? What do you want me to do? Silence on the other end. Nothing, I guess. We hung up. 10th week, Sunday night, I was home watching the Packers game. Tight game, 4th quarter. The doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Brielle, standing on my porch alone, looking like she hadn't slept in days. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. I need to talk to you. There's nothing to talk about. Please, just hear me out. I sighed. You have 2 minutes. She took a shaky breath. I messed everything up. The restaurant, the lies, everything. I was hurt and angry, and I wanted you to feel what I was feeling. But it backfired, and now everyone hates me, and I don't know what to do. That isn't my problem. I know it isn't. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Genuinely. I wish I could undo it all. You can't. I know. We stood there. Her waiting for something. Me having nothing left to give. Is there any chance? No. You didn't even let me finish. I don't need to. The answer is no. No second chance. No forgiveness. No friendship. Just no. Her face crumbled. I loved you. You loved controlling me. There's a difference. That's not fair. You humiliated me on purpose. You tried to ruin my reputation when I moved on. Fairness doesn't exist here anymore. She stood there for a few more seconds, then nodded, turned, walked to her car, and left. I closed the door and went back to the couch. The game was tied, going into overtime. My phone vibrated. A text from Claire about lunch tomorrow. I smiled. I typed back, confirming. The game came back on. The Packers kicked a field goal. They won by 3. Life went on, with or without Brielle's permission. 5 months later, life felt completely different. I was promoted at work to lead technician on major commercial contracts, with better pay, better hours, and real respect from the crew. Claire and I made our relationship official around the 4th month. No games, no tests, just 2 people who liked being together. We went to Brewers games, had dinner at random places. We spent weekends doing absolutely nothing special. She came to the bowling league with me and fit in perfectly with the guys. Marcus told me after the first night she came that I had finally found the right person. That was when things got interesting again. Marcus texted me on a Tuesday afternoon. You're going to want to see this. He sent a link to the Milwaukee subreddit. Someone had posted an update on the restaurant video. It turns out Brielle's PR firm had let her go. The official reason was downsizing, but according to the post, several clients had complained after recognizing her in the viral video. They said they didn't want someone with that kind of judgment handling their communications. Lindsay and Avery had completely distanced themselves. Avery, in fact, posted a public apology on her Instagram. She said she got caught up in someone else's drama and made choices she regretted. She didn't name Brielle directly, but everyone knew who she was talking about. The comments were brutal. A week later, I bumped into Darren, a guy who used to work with Brielle at the PR firm. We were both at the same hardware store. He recognized me and came over to shake my hand. Hey man, he said. Just wanted to say that whole situation was a mess. Everyone in the office knew what she was planning. Some of us tried to talk her out of it. She wouldn't listen. I thanked him for telling me that. She's having a hard time, he continued. Can't get a job in PR anywhere in Milwaukee. Her reputation is ruined. Last I heard, she was talking about moving to Minneapolis to start over. I nodded, wished him luck, grabbed my supplies, and left. 6th month. Claire and I were at a Brewers game, with perfect seats along the third base line. The same section where I had met Brielle almost 4 years earlier. Funny how things work out. At the end of the 7th inning, I went to get food for us, standing in line at the food court when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Travis. I turned around. Brielle. She looked different, thinner, tired, no makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Nothing like the polished version of herself she used to present. Hi, I said. I kept my voice neutral. I heard you got promoted. That's great. You deserve it. Thank you. She shifted her weight, clearly uncomfortable. I'm moving next month. Minneapolis. Fresh start. Good luck with that. She winced at the words, the same ones I had said at Metropolitan. I didn't mean them as an allusion, but she clearly interpreted them as such. I know I don't deserve anything from you, she said, but I wanted you to know that I've been thinking a lot about everything. About how I treated you, about what I threw away. I took my food from the counter. Okay. Just okay. What do you want me to say, Brielle? You made your choices. I made mine. It's over. I started walking back to my seat. She called out to me. She's good for you, the new girl. I stopped and turned back. Her name is Claire. And yes, she is. That's good. You deserve someone who values you. I walked away without responding. I went back to my seat. I handed the nachos to Claire. She asked who I was talking to. No one important, I said. Just someone from a long time ago. Comment. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply walk away. Silence is often a more powerful response than any argument you could ever make. Your private life should be a safe haven, not content for an online audience. When someone crosses your boundaries to humiliate you, you owe it to yourself to protect your peace. You cannot control how others treat you, but you do have full control over how you respond. Letting go of the need to defend your reputation allows the truth to speak for itself in time. Closing the door on toxicity is the only way to open a new door to the genuine love you deserve. Focus on building a life that feels good on the inside, not one that only looks good on the outside. Trust that better days are ahead when you choose your dignity. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.